Hey there, Smite fans, and welcome to another prediction video. This one's going to be covering week 7 of the SPL. This week's going to be very interesting because I feel like we have some really good contention for teams here. If my voice sounds a little different, it's because I've been sick the last couple days. I'm still trying to get over it, but I wanted to get this video out on time, so I am going to record this anyway. First up on the docket, almost immediately, is going to be a pretty interesting game, NRG versus Cringe Crew. So this should very heavily fall in favor of NRG. They're just a stronger team overall. But Cringe Crew's played on land. They're pretty comfortable with it. The environment should be kind of leaning in their favor, and they have taken games off of NRG before. That being said, NRG, at this point, this is to qualify for Super Regionals. This isn't to mess around. This isn't anything to take a chance on. And I feel like they're going to be able to take this one in honestly kind of a crushing 2-0. This next one's going to be really interesting as well because, again, Cringe Crew does have some land experience on them, but so does the Obey Alliance, and it's going to be very, very fun to watch because I feel like Emilzi's going to be having some things up his sleeve for Cringe Crew, but so is Ataraxia on the other side, bringing his team in here originally, and honestly, I still kind of feel it. Obey Alliance should have this. That's what I thought. As a 2-0 for Obey Alliance, it shouldn't be too hard for them. But then I thought about it a little bit more and think about, what we've been seeing at LAN. And while the other teams aren't the best example, notice that the LAN play is very different. And that's something where I think is going to benefit Cringe Crew. I think that even though it's a different setup, I was actually at the esports studio this last week, it looks great. With the different setup, they're going to be, I guess, a little bit out of their comfort zone, so both teams are going to have a little bit of jitters going on right here. Cringe Crew will come in with the advantage because they will have just played a set, they'll be sitting in the same seats, they'll be a little bit more comfortable. And because of that, I think they're going to be able to take a game. I don't think they're going to be strong enough to take two. I think this one's going to be a split between the two teams, just because Obey Alliance, while they are strong, I think Cringe Crew is going to be coming out with something to prove. While I think Cringe Crew might have a chance at maybe throwing an upset for the NRG game, I don't think Cyclone GG has a chance at all. This one pretty much going to be an easy 2-0, letting NRG get off to a very nice start for the week. And they're going to be ending Friday, actually, with this game, and at the end, the lowest number that I see them having is 3 wins, probably 4 wins, which is a great way to start the first day. Following that one up, Obey versus Cyclone GG, while Cyclone, again, is a very strong team, and honestly, we've seen some upsets come out at these lands. I just don't see it happening here. Obey Alliance going to be able to take this one in a relatively easy 2-0. There might be some hiccups, but for the most part, they should have this set. Now, if I was saying that Cringe Crew versus NRG and that Cringe Crew versus Obey were going to be great games, NRG versus Obey Alliance, this game, these two games actually, are going to be insane. The teams are going to be playing a little bit more passive, I feel, just because they know what's on the line here. These two teams pretty much are going to be fighting for first and second. I feel like Obey Alliance is going to be able to push themselves to that second place spot. NRG obviously having that first place more or less on lock. This is the point where Obey can prove themselves. If they can get a game off of NRG, that will be insane for them. That being said, NRG coming in as a stronger team overall, I think they're going to be able to take it, but it is going to be a very close and very worth watching. I absolutely recommend you do not miss this. Cringe Crew versus Cyclone. So again, Cyclone, they're a strong team. They're going to be able to cause some hiccups here, but not enough to really cause any upsets. I think Cringe Crew is going to be able to take this in a 2-0. It could be a split, but I just don't feel like Cyclone's going to be able to push their way up there. Again, we've seen upsets in the last few weeks, so I could be wrong there, but for the most part, I feel like Cringe Crew has this. Going into the repeat games, Obey versus Cyclone. Again, like I said before, while Cyclone is going to be able to cause some hiccups, might even be able to cause an upset against maybe Cringe Crew, for the most part, up against Obey Alliance, it's not going to be too much of a contest. Obey going to be able to take that in a 2-0. Honestly, this one I feel like is very necessary to watch the first game on Friday. If Cringe Crew, and honestly just any of the games from Cringe Crew, if Cringe Crew shows up as a completely different team, then I absolutely recommend maybe keeping an eye on this one, but for the most part, I still feel like NRG is going to have the overall advantage. They do still have the strength coming in this. They have the wins. Honestly, they're coming back on LAN, and they have had some of the best LAN performances we've seen in the last year out of Smite. So honestly, I don't see this going downward for them, but Cringe Crew could come in with an upset, but for the most part, this one's more than likely going to be a 2-0 for NRG. Moving over to Sunday, starting it off, Cringe Crew versus Cyclone. This one probably going to be a little bit lackluster like the one before. I feel like it could go as a split, but I honestly just think that Cringe Crew is going to be able to take it as a 2-0. Cyclone might be able to find something, but for the most part, I think that they are going to be finding some losses. They honestly might even be able to find themselves in a position that they could win the game. I just don't think Cringe Crew is going to slip up that badly. And because of that, again, it's just going to be a 2-0 for Cringe Crew. So I'm about to startle everybody. Normally, in these last few weeks, every single pick for every team has been the same. Throughout the week, I've said, you know, they're going to 2-0 here, they're going to 2-0 there. They're going to split here, they're going to split there. Earlier this week, I think Obey and Cringe Crew will split. The second time through, I don't think they're going to split. I think Obey is going to be able to take it. I don't think that they're going to have that much of an issue. I mean, again, Cringe Crew, they could show up. I could be wrong, but I feel like at this point in the week, Obey is going to be very comfortable. Not just very comfortable, but very, very in their zone. They're going to be able to pull out some picks that probably haven't seen. Cringe Crew's more or less going to be a little bit out of their comfort zone up against Obey. I feel like Obey is going to be able to kind of trip them up. And because of that, I think that while they might split earlier in the week, I think they're going to be able to take it as a 2-0 here again. It depends on how we see Cringe Crew playing, but as it was right now, that's just how I feel it going. And while I think they will be improving a lot, Obey could possibly split here. Again, watch how they play. This is honestly probably one of the ones that a lot of people are going to lose FP on. I'm going to vote NRG as a 2-0. It could be a split, and honestly, at this point, it may even be a 2-0 for Obey. Depends on how they play. It depends on how NRG plays. But I feel like NRG is just going to be a little bit too land dominant. They could afford a loss here because, again, they're fighting for the top 2 spots. The seeding does matter, however, because whoever gets second place goes up against Orbit. NRG could get first place, more than likely getting first place. NRG more than likely going to be looking for that first place spot to go up against Sanguine at Super Regionals because, let's be honest, that's going to be an easy match for whoever gets there. Whoever goes against Orbit's going to be very hard. Obey looking to knock NRG into that bracket because then they have to deal with Orbit or NRG. But for the most part, it looks like it's going to be in favor of NRG getting the bracket they want. So Obey, more than likely going up against Orbit at Super Regionals. Those are going to be a great set of games. Again, I feel like the last games of the week have been a little bit lackluster overall, just with the way that the brackets have been. But as it stands, we're going to be seeing NRG go up against Cyclone. If there's nothing on the line, I won't be surprised if NRG messes around. If they do, Cyclone has a chance, but for the most part, it's going to be a relatively easy 2-0 for NRG. If there's something on the line, like if the point difference between them and Obey, or Obey and Cyclone, or Obey and Cringe Crew is close enough, this could actually be where we see upsets. Depending on who NRG, kind of like if they want to set the bracket to be a little bit more favorable for them in the long run. As it stands, though, I think it's going to go in their favor. It's going to be a relatively easy 2-0, and that gives us week 7. So there's one more week of LAN play next week, and it's going to be interesting. Another thing that's not on the ticket, the Challenger Cup final. So I'm not going to be going in this weekend like I had originally planned to see these Challenger Cup teams because I've watched them for weeks now. I kind of want to see them go on. But we're going to be doing the EU finals after all of this, and it's going to be very interesting. So we've got Hysteria versus Circuit Esports. Both of these teams fought through 4 weeks of open bracket, 2 weeks of round robin to finalize at a 7th week, which was the semifinals. 2 best-of-5 sets. Hysteria was able to find theirs in 3-0. Circa got theirs in a 3-1. And they're looking very good. If it gets put on the ticket, I'm going to go ahead and tell you. It's going to be, depending on the size of it, so if it's a best-of-3, a best-of-5, based on how I saw those teams play, I was casting that Saturday in the semifinals, it's going to be Hysteria all the way. They're now actually under Burrito GG, so it's going to be really interesting to see that sponsorship go on. They will be advancing more than likely. Whoever wins, I will say, is going to be moving to the Gauntlet afterward, and I honestly feel like it's going to be Burrito, and I feel like they're going to have a pretty good chance at fighting some of the teams that are going to be in the Gauntlet. I think it's going to be a very interesting set. Watch the finals, watch the Gauntlet, it's going to be great, and I will talk to you guys next week for the last week of LAN. Hopefully, if you come out to the LAN, if you're watching it, I will more than likely be in the studio because I want to watch the North American teams go at it one time, and it's going to be nice to watch them. As it stands, though, thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you next week in the next prediction video.